without further ado, I'm so excited to jump to our next session, which is an intimate fireside chat about all things Back to the Future. Helping me co-moderate this session is James Faust. So James is the artistic director at the Dallas Film Society. James, welcome to the stage. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, big Back to the Future fan. I'm an artistic director for the Dallas International Film Festival as well. I program film festivals around the country, and I'm just excited to be here to share this. I saw this movie when I was 15 years old when it came out. I didn't go on opening day 36 years and 4 days ago from today, but I did go the next day with a guitar pick in hand and wondering where the big speaker was. So I was let down, but I'm going to ask Bob some questions about that.
All right, so let's bring on Stephen. Stephen, welcome to the stage. Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I too, like James, saw Back to the Future on opening weekend, and I was a few years older than he was at the time. I was 20, but I didn't have a guitar pick in hand, but I was very explosive as a new fan for Back to the Future. So it's certainly one of these films that's changed my life. Very nice to be here. Thank you.
Well, Stephen, you're the executive director for backtothefuture.com. So you are the ultimate super fan. So thank you for being here.
Either that or sorely misguided, but it's been a very interesting journey for a Southern boy from Alabama.
Well, it's going to be a fun conversation. So I guess we're going to bring in the linchpin of this wonderful panel, Oscar-nominated writer Bob Gale. Bob, I'm going to read your bio just because it's in front of me, and I think I was supposed to do this a long time ago, so wait for a second. An American screenwriter, producer, and film director, he co-wrote the science fiction comedy Back to the Future with writing partner Robert Bob Zemeckis and the screenplays for the film's 2 sequels. Gale also co-produced all 3 films and served as associate producer on the subsequent animated TV series. Michael J. Fox has noted that Back to the Future co-creator Bob Gale is the gatekeeper of the franchise. I'm not sure who's the keymaster in that particular setup, but I'm glad that the gatekeeper's in such good hands. Welcome, Bob Gale.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Marsha. Happy to be here. And I hope I won't embarrass anybody. And let's do this.
Right on. Okay, so let's just get started. And like I said, we were talking earlier beforehand. You guys have been through this a lot, and so we're hopeful that we can bring some new things to the conversation. So, as I said earlier, it's been 36 years and 4 days since this film hit the screen in 1985. I cannot believe it's been that long, and we still have flying cars, hoverboards, etc. We're working on it. But in that 36 years going back, what are you the most proud of in the history and the lore that surrounds this film?
As many fans know, this project was rejected over 40 times from when we started. Actually, the pitch wasn't rejected at all. We hit the pitch out of the park in fall of 1980 and set the project up at Columbia Pictures. But after we did 2 drafts for Columbia Pictures, dated February and April 1981, we couldn't get anybody to make the picture. And I say it was rejected for the next year and a half, over 40 times. And so the fact that here we are today and we're still talking about it, and it's more popular probably than ever before. I've often said that if the Bob Gale of 2021 got in a DeLorean, went back to visit the Bob Gale of 1980, after we just made our deal to write it at Columbia, and said, "Hey, Bob, you know what you're going to be doing in the year 2021? You're going to be on this internet chat still talking about Back to the Future." And I would have said to this old guy, "Hey, old man, what the hell have you been drinking? Could I have some?"
That's awesome. So I'd love to ask Stephen a question about the Back to the Future community. There's such an incredible community of fans that are connecting around this incredible franchise. So Stephen, what inspired you to start the Back to the Future community, and how did you get it off the ground, and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, it's been a very interesting journey over the last, really for the last 36 years as well for me. But my journey really kind of started about a year after Back to the Future came out in theaters. Again, I saw it in the theater opening weekend. I was blown away with it, but it wasn't until the movie came out on home video in May of '86. And about a month later, this magazine, Starlog magazine, came out. And there was an article in Starlog magazine called The Other Marty McFly. And it talked about all these great theories and really great details in the movie that I didn't catch in the theater. So, the Twin Pines Mall turning into Lone Pines Mall. And for some reason, I was really infatuated with this broken concrete ledge on the clock tower. And one of these details that I just had to go back and find. So my fiance at the time, who's now my wife of almost 35 years, we went and rented the movie and watched it frame by frame on VHS to catch some of these things. And so I really got energized and was really enthralled with it. And by the time the sequels came out, I was all in. And so I was just a really big crazed Back to the Future fan. And you got to understand, this was before the internet. Really, the only place you could get information was things like Starlog and E-News Daily and just, different media that was not the internet. There was a few online chats that you could get onto, like CompuServe and a few things like that. But I really, really cranked it up a notch once Back to the Future, the ride came out. So my wife surprised me in 1982 with a trip to Universal Studios Florida. And I came away from that. I said, okay, I have got to get myself a copy of that footage from the ride. That is Back to the Future Part 4. I've got to somehow find a way to get a copy of that. So being a very persistent person that I am, I made a lot of just cold calls to Universal Studios for several months. And one fateful day, I was transferred to Bob's office. And Bob had an office on the back lot. He was working on the cartoon series at the time. And I've always teased Bob that he probably regrets ever answering that phone. But his assistant and Bob kind of encouraged me. He saw what kind of an enthusiastic fan I was at the time. He encouraged me to start a fan club. There was another gentleman that was already in contact with his office, and we kind of joined forces and put out a newsletter for about 500 fans across the world called the Hill Valley Telegraph, which was named after the newspaper in the films. And so we did that until the internet really came along in 1995, and I registered kind of just a web page, and it was really the first web page on the internet dedicated to Back to the Future. So everything I have done since 1992 has really been very organic. I didn't know, there was no handbook for me to look at on how to start a fan community, at least nothing that I ever found. And so one thing led to another. Just over time, I registered a domain, did a lot of fan events. There's a biennial DeLorean car show that happens every 2 years around the country. And so in early 2000, I was brought on to help Universal write the pop-up trivia for the DVDs that came out. And I was brought on, and there was a delay, and it came out in December of 2002. So that pop-up, if you've got one of the old DVDs, and even some of the later Blu-rays have the pop-up trivia that comes up. And so along with Bob, I did those for Universal Studios. And I feel like I'm just rambling on and on, but but everything that I've been involved with has just been taking it to the next stage and next level. I worked with Bob in 2011 on the Nike Mag promotion for Nike. And, the first time I ever met Bob was on the back lot at Universal Studios for the DVD kickoff party. And almost a decade later, we were on the back lot again for the Nike event. And that's really where Bob got the idea of restoring the DeLorean, because we saw the original DeLorean sitting on the back lot, and it was in quite disarray. So, I tip my hat to Bob, because Bob is one of these filmmakers who's always been very, very giving to the fan community. I can't do what I do without Bob's support, and he has always supported what I do for the community and a lot of other fans. I mean, he was the key stakeholder in making sure that the DeLorean was restored back in 2012. And I'll leave that as a segue for Bob if he wants to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Bob. Well, Bob, yeah, this is news to me. So you had the original DeLorean, you had it restored, or have it rebuilt? What's that story?
Well, I didn't have it. It was
wasn't in your garage back there with the.
It was it was sitting on the back lot, and Universal brought. Well, let me go back in time a little bit. Before that, the DeLorean had been on display for tourists at the Universal tour, and they had it just kind of out in the open, and people could come and take pictures of it and get close enough where they were actually able to, grab stuff off of the back of it, and people literally took stuff off of the car. At a certain point, they decided to take it off display, and they put it back in storage, but it wasn't indoor storage, it was outdoor storage.
Yeah.
And they did a down and dirty restoration in 2002 for the party that we had for the debut of the series on DVD, and that was a lot of fun. And people who attended that got to take their picture next to the car. And whoever did that restoration, it was good enough to make the car look great for that event. Then they put it back wherever it was. And so in 2011, they decided to take it out for this Nike Mag event, and that was the first time I'd seen it since 2002, and I was just sick how bad it looked. I have no idea how they actually got it from where it was to the back lot, because I have no idea if it actually ran or if they needed to jump it or what. But animals had built nests in the upholstery. It looked like hell. And I had met, I'm meeting fans all the time, of course, and two guys that I had met, Joe Walser and Terry Metalis, they had done a beautiful restoration, and for whatever reason, those two guys and a third guy named Jay Ryan, they kind of knew where a lot of the bodies were buried and who to talk to at Universal about trying to get get the car back in displayable shape. So we had a couple of meetings. We met with the transportation people at Universal. We took pictures. I had those guys do up a proposal about how much it would cost to do this. And then we proposed it to Universal that they should spend a whole bunch of money to restore it. And, oh, by the way, if you don't want to do that, the Smithsonian is interested in this. Because, come on, this is salesmanship 101. If you want to sell somebody on something, convince them that there's somebody else that's waiting in the wings, the eBay mentality. If I don't get this, that guy's going to get it. So they did the right thing, and they said, no, the DeLorean belongs at Universal. We need to own this. And of course, by then they had the ride, and they knew that this was part of Universal's legacy. So they pulled the trigger, and we got the car restored. Joe and Terry did an absolutely phenomenal job, documented in a documentary done by Steve Concatelli called Out of Time, Saving the DeLorean Time Machine. And there is a 15 or 20 minute version of that on the Blu-ray sets, but the full 75, 80 minute version of it is the one you should see. So Out of Time, check it out. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. So here we got the DeLorean restored, and it was a total fan participation thing. We actually offered amnesty to anybody who had swiped parts off of the DeLorean and wanted to bring them back, and the community was great. People said, "Yeah, I've got one of these hockey puck things, or I've got one of those little green canister deals," and the parts came back, and about a little over a year later, we had the thing in the museum space at Universal, and it lasted there for, I guess, about a year, a little over a year, until Universal decided, well, you know what, we should have another attraction there instead of this museum space. So they said, we're going to move this away somewhere so that we can have, I forget what it was, a Terminator attraction or Fast and Furious attraction, something. But we made arrangements with the Peterson Car Museum, and that's where the restored DeLorean is, beautifully displayed over there. And then this is a perfect segue for me to plug this book, the latest in the Back to the Future legacy of literature, if you will, if I can be alliterative. Joe Walser and I put this book together, and all the stuff that Joe did in terms of images and the details of what's there, of what he restored here. This will give you an idea of the type of stuff that you can see in the book. That gives you everything you ever wanted to know or didn't think you wanted to know about the car. And what makes the book better than just the fact that it's a tech manual is that we have Doc Brown's diaries throughout. So if you want to find out what Doc was doing before the movie started, the first movie started, it's in here. What did he do after he worked on the Manhattan Project? It's in here. What happened to Doc when he traveled from 1985 to 2015 for the first time? And how did he track down Marty and his kids? It's in there. How did Doc finance everything? That's a great story, and it's in there. What happened when lightning struck the DeLorean at the end of Back to the Future Part 2, and Doc ended up in 1885? How did Doc set himself up as a blacksmith? It's covered. So this is an essential book for all Back to the Future fans to get. Hurry on over to Amazon right now and get your copy. What is it called? Back to the Future, DeLorean Time Machine, Doc Brown's Owner's Workshop Manual. So there it is. And Inside Editions, who did Michael Klastron's fabulous book, Back to the Future, The Ultimate Visual History, another book that if you don't have it, get the new edition, because it has a brand new chapter that covers Back to the Future, the musical. There, Stephen Clark is holding it up. So you can learn a lot about Back to the Future, the musical, and everything that happened between 2015 and 2020. All right, enough of me being a shill.
Well, wait, Bob, if I get that book, one of my best buddies in high school his dad had a DeLorean, and he let him drive it to school every day. And I asked him about it, and he sent me a shell. It looks like somebody just took all the wheels off of it and shoved it in the garage. So if I buy that book, can I build my own time machine? That's what people are wanting to know.
You can.
That's a great
yes.
question.
Will it work? No. Some of the Doc Brown in the introduction, he makes it real clear that even though he's going to explain a whole lot about how this thing works, there is some information that's been redacted and some information that's bogus, because he doesn't want the secrets of time travel to fall into the wrong hands.
All right. Well, not everybody has a Mr. Fusion, I guess. I'm sorry.
Not yet.
Not yet. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing the book. I grew up watching the movies myself, and I can't wait to dive into it and to learn so much more. That is super cool. So back to the future community. Stephen, how do you foster connection between your community members, and what kind of programs and initiatives are you running for the community?
Well, again, it's all very organic for me. So in addition to the official website, backtothefuture.com, I'm taking full advantage of antiquated communication like email. So we've got an email list of about 75,000 fans worldwide that we send out emails, several times a month. Additionally, I actually run the official Twitter account, so I use Twitter a lot to engage the community, and of course Facebook. Now I'm kind of a little old school, and so I don't get I just don't understand Instagram at all. But I have an account, and I fumble my way through it, but I don't use TikTok or Snapchat or any of those things. I'm a one-man show, so I don't use all of those. But whatever I can do to to harness everybody together. Originally, it was very centralized. The fans, it was very centralized over the years. Since social media's come along, it has really become very decentralized, and so you'll find Facebook pages. There's so many Facebook pages now. Same with Instagram accounts. So I mean, it's very decentralized now. So I try to participate in as much as I can on those. But again, I try to attend as many of the big cast reunion type things as I can and let people know. So there's a section on the website now for upcoming events where some of the casts are going to be appearing. This event is actually on the website now, and so it's just really how I go about doing it. There's no handbook that I go by. It's just trying to figure out what works best and what doesn't, and just trying a different route if I fail, and I've failed many times over the last 29 years. So, but I have succeeded a lot too. So again, sometimes I wonder how in the world did I get to this point. But it's been a fun ride.
I wonder that myself, Stephen.
Right.
How did I get here? Not how did you?
Well, Stephen, it sounds like it's been quite a journey, and it sounds like the success really is coming from listening to your community and really like hearing what they want to see from this community. And like you said, today you're here, you're in this event, your fans are in Bevy, they're able to interact with each other. We have networking rooms there. Folks, if you have any questions for this panel as well, if you want your question answered by Bob and Stephen, don't forget to post it in the Q&A tab. And then after the session, we're going to have an opportunity to stick around and connect with each other and chat about all things Back to the Future. So
I will add that we just got through with the 35th anniversary, and back when the films first came out, there was very little merchandising that had been done for the films. And even through the 30th anniversary, we had a lot of merchandise, but we had a lot of merchandise in the 35th anniversary. I would wager to guess that the number of things that came out last year probably surpassed everything the last 34 years but behind it had come together. So that's one of the areas that I have somehow stumbled into. Again, with Bob's blessing and support, I've worked with a lot of the manufacturers over the years. I've written booklets for different. Bob and I worked on the Lego DeLorean, and just a lot of different toys over the years. I'm working with some now on products that haven't come out. So that has been one of the things that I listen to the fans, what they're looking for collectible wise. And, I don't have the ear of all the manufacturers and the official licensees, but it is fun to actually work with some of these companies early on in the design, the R&D phase on products. And then it's very, very gratifying to see that product actually come out and be on the shelves and people actually enjoy buying those products and those collectibles. So that's another phase that I've been involved with over the last 36 years.
Well, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting kind of circle that has happened. The reason that we have so much more merchandise now than ever before is that the people who are running those companies to decide to make the merchandise are Back to the Future fans.
Right.
And they're the ones that are saying, hey, you know what? I really would like to have a hoverboard that's a bottle opener, or a good Back to the Future board game. And so because the people that are coming up with these things are fans, the stuff is good. Because back in the day, we go back to when they first sensed that there was a merchandising possibility, which was the release of Back to the Future 2. Everybody knew, okay, we had the Pizza Hut tie-in. We had companies saying, okay, we can sell some toys. We had, one of the worst Nintendo 8-bit video games ever in the history of video games. Back to the Future, it was so bad, I actually did publicity telling fans not to buy it. It was that bad. And the reason it was so bad was because LJN Toys, the people that did the games, they didn't care. They said, hey, this is just some license from some stupid movie. What are we developing? Get some developer to just slap some Back to the Future imagery on this, and we'll call it Back to the Future, the video game. Well, we jumped ahead to 2010 or 2011, when Telltale decided they wanted to do Back to the Future video game. And all those guys that worked on it, they are fans. And they involved me, and they wanted to make sure that their video game was worthy of the brand name. And it's a terrific game. So this is why it's important for what Steven does to give the fans a community, to let everybody know that there are people out here who really care, both from the fan level and, people like me that kind of run the whole deal, to say, yeah, okay, if we do another piece of Back to the Future merchandise, we've got a market for that. We've got an audience that's interested in that.
Before we're about to throw out the questions, but I wanted to ask Bob something, because we're talking about merchandise. And I remember one of the first movie sets I was ever on was Armageddon. And I remember Michael Bay taking a call from Jerry Bruckheimer talking about they just added an exploding meteorite to sell to kids, and I don't know if that's going to be safe, but okay. And it didn't happen. But that was a year before the movie ever came out, so it's almost shocking to me that it was the summer before the movie came out, and I was thinking, man, I can't wait to see this exploding meteorite. But it's shocking that Back to the Future didn't really have any merch until after the film. So, like you said, it's been a great growth. And to that, when you were putting this together, Bob, when you were writing this, I believe the story was you were in your father's basement and you at your own home, and you we'll look through a yearbook. When you were coming up with this, in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that you would be, that it would, one, still be going, and two, would have this sort of fervor and lore that people are dressing up all over the planet to be your characters?
No, of course not. I pinch myself every day. You know, I live in fear of the day that there's a knock on my door, and I open it up, and there's a guy in a dark suit with sunglasses, and he says, "Mr. Gale, I'm sorry, there's been a terrible mistake. This was not supposed to happen to you. We have to undo the whole thing."
Oh, this is great. All right, so Marsha, we've got quite a few questions if you want to start going to the audience right now, because they're clamoring, all the people that are watching out there in the internet, which, as I also seem to get from this whole conversation, Stephen Clark invented the internet, because he goes back enough. And he's been working in it. You threw CompuServe out there. I think you may have blown some circuits. So.
Yeah, I dated myself real well there.
So you want to take the first one, Marsha? Because I have to switch screens because I'm having a little difficulty here.
No worries. So let's jump into the questions. There's a lot of them, and please keep them coming. We want to get through as many as possible. So let's see. Let's kick it off with a question from Sean, and I see this question repeated a lot. Is Back to the Future the musical coming to the USA?
We hope so. We want to get it off the ground in the UK first. The UK is a very successful territory for us. Maybe there's some people on board here that were able to attend Secret Cinema Presents Back to the Future back in 2014, which was an eye-opening event for me. And it was a true convincer of how passionate the UK fans are. So we wanted to get the project off the ground over there because we knew we had a big enough fan base that it would be a big success. So, I mean, knock on wood that we get it open when it's supposed to, and there are no more COVID delays. And assuming that we do well, we'll get it over here. When? Who knows? I would say probably not before 2023 in New York, just because that's how long it takes. It wouldn't be the same production, I hope, because that would mean that we're still playing in London, and we set up a New York production as well, which means we would have to cast it, do all these rehearsals. The hardest part, of course, is getting an actual theater to say, yeah, we'll let you book on such and such a month and day. So we are hoping not only to bring it over here, but get a world tour going and bring it to a country near you.
That's awesome. I feel like that speaks so much to the theme of our overall events, where we're talking about the future of events, and no one really knows. No one knows when you could do something like this in person. I think we're all figuring it out, and I'm not surprised that it's sort of the same for you.
Yeah, Bob, for example, so there's music. Your films that you've written all have music components to it, whether it's I Want to Hold Your Hand with the Beatles, or whether it's 1941 with the big music fight number and everything that's in the Back to the Future series. Music seems to be a big part of your life leading into this musical. So two-parter, are you trained in any sort of musical instruments or musicology? And why the musical? Because I want to see it. I can't imagine, and if Huey Lewis was maybe scoring it, that'd be cool too. But why the musical, and what's your musical background?
My mom was a professional violinist. My grandmother actually played the piano in silent movie houses in St. Louis. So she was the first member of the Gale family to be in. Actually, she wasn't a Gale. She was my mom's mom. But she was the first person in my family to actually be in the movie business, if you will. I took piano lessons when I was a kid. When I really wanted to be out playing softball, And my mom didn't want me to become a musician, so she forced my brothers and me to take music lessons when we didn't want to, as kind of a reverse psychology to make sure that we weren't going to become musicians. So instead, I go in the crazier business, the movie business, right? So that comes with trying to control what your kids are going to do. Okay. But yeah, I grew up watching all the classic musicals. South Pacific and My Fair Lady and Sound of Music and Man of La Mancha, Camelot, all that stuff. That was my parents were big fans of musicals. And look, we're all human beings. Music is part of everybody's life, right? So why the musical? People have been always saying, what about Back to the Future 4? Or what about a reboot? And Bob Zemeckis and I have been dead set, no. We told the story of Back to the Future the way we wanted to with the trilogy. We don't want to go back to that well because the story is completely satisfying the way that it is. And, why muddy or pollute the waters? But it was actually Bob Zemeckis' wife, Leslie, who said, did you guys ever think about turning Back to the Future into a musical? And we hadn't really. And we thought about it and said, you know what, maybe that's a way to give the people Back to the Future, to retell the story of Back to the Future in a new medium that won't interfere with the legacy and the canon of the films as they exist, but will give us a new window into Back to the Future and give people a new Back to the Future experience. Because I think when people say, I want Back to the Future 4, I want another Back to the Future, I want a Back to the Future reboot, what they're really saying is, what I really want is to see something that gives me the same visceral experience that I had the first time I saw Back to the Future. That's what people really want to have. And that's why everybody goes to the next sequel of, fill in the blank, hoping that it's going to be as good as the first one. And, it never really is. So this is a way, there's two ways right now that you can get a Back to the Future experience that is reminiscent of the first time you saw it. One of them is when the concert circuit reopens, Back to the Future in concert. And that's where you go and a live orchestra plays the Back to the Future score while the movie is playing. And the visceral feeling that you get with a live orchestra playing all that great Alan Silvestri music, it's really powerful. It's fantastic. And the other one is our musical. And just ask anybody who got to see it in Manchester, and I think you'll hear them say, yeah, this was a new way of experiencing Back to the Future that gave me the same kind of goosebumps that I got when I saw the movie.
Great.
That's incredible. So let's jump over to the next question. I really do want to get through as many of these as possible. So question from Blake at Film Fest. What location has been the most remote place that you've heard of there being Back to the Future fans? I know that movie stars mentioned being in a completely remote, isolated places, whether in Africa or Asia, or even there they get recognized by their movies.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox has that story, and I forget whether he was in Africa or Asia, where he was in some godforsaken place, and somebody yelled out, "McFly!"
That's awesome.
All right, I get the next one here from 80 at Sir Dunalot. If you made Back to the Future now, what 3 eras would you choose to visit?
Well, we're not making it now, and so we're not even thinking about that. So that's not even a good question for me to answer. Let's go to the next question.
All right, let's jump over to the next one. This one comes from Jenny. So for Stephen, are there any plans to start a community section on the website?
Currently, no. We've had that in the past. Bob may actually remember this. I had arranged for the 25th anniversary celebration, the very first one back in 2010, to be here in my hometown. And Bob and Claudia and James Token and Michael Chaffee came into town. Well, about a week before this big, great celebration, we had a hack on the website through the community site. And so I've been very, very apprehensive about starting up a new one, and it's a lot to maintain and to moderate. I've done it in the past, but it's something I would consider. We've got all new software we use now for the website. So back in those days, everything was piecemealed. I had one piece of software that did the community, and another did the website, and another did the store, and so, chat and so forth. So there are a lot more consolidated solutions now. So there's not, and a lot more secure. So, I mean, it's something I would consider, but it's not currently on my radar at the moment.
Got it. Well, I feel like I have to plug Bevy at this point for your community solution. Definitely check out Bevy. Check us out in the booth today as well. But yeah, let's jump over to the next question.
I'm looking at this one because it's for all of us. It's kind of weird. So, but I kind of want to answer. I already have an answer rolled up. For the panel from Reed Coles 34, what was your favorite scene from the whole trilogy?
King Lear got in a lot of trouble when he was asked who was his favorite daughter. That's why it's called The Tragedy of King Lear. I will tell you that my favorite moment of making the trilogy was the first night that Michael J. Fox came to work. As all the fans, I'm sure, already know, we'd shot 5.5 weeks of the picture with Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly, and that wasn't working out. And we did something that was considered at the time, and can be considered today, maybe completely insane, and that is to fire our lead actor that far and third of the way into the shoot and start all over again with somebody else. And we didn't know if this was going to really work or not, although we kind of thought it would. But as soon as Michael J. Fox showed up on the set, started introducing himself and being happy to be there, and this was a Twin Pines Mall sequence, and he started doing the same stuff that Eric had done the week before. Everybody in the crew, it was like the lights suddenly turned on, and everybody said, "Oh, it's going to work. This kid really is Marty McFly. It's going to be a good picture. It's great." So that's the moment I indelibly in my head.
Steven?
I don't really have a specific scene. I've been so fortunate to meet so many of the actors who are in the trilogy and forge close friendships with them. So, for me personally, anytime Tom Wilson, who played Biff, anytime he's on screen, that's my favorite. Tom and I have done a lot of shows together, and he makes my jaws hurt. He's so funny. So anytime he's on screen, I do remember probably the most goosebump moment of the trilogy for me was in part 3 at the very end of the film when the DeLorean rises up off of the rails. And, the very first time I saw that, it's going to derail. And that just goosebumps. That's one of those goosebump moments for me, is seeing the car rear up just before it's about to go through time for the very last time. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of have to separate myself out from the films because I know so many of these actors in real life, and so it's pure joy for me.
What about you, Marsha? You have a favorite?
It's so hard to pick, but I think one that jumps to mind is the end of the first movie where the DeLorean takes off in the air and the line is, "Where we're going, we don't need roads." I love that. A lot of spoilers here in this conversation. If anybody hasn't.
If you haven't seen this and you haven't seen
what are you doing here if you haven't seen this?
That's your fault. That's definitely. I just want to say my favorite is, and it's the entire sequence of the Under the Sea Enchantment Under the Sea dance, but the part where Pops McFly goes and says, I've got a chance to talk to Leah Thompson about this, and that sort of transition of his character when he punches Bev, and it's like, it's everything. It is absolutely everything. And the fact that you kill me because it's not everything, because it doesn't fix everything, and that's it, right? No. But to go further, that whole sequence is just brilliant to me. And I was talking to a college class course about that, and I said, you should watch that whole sequence, because that's writing, and that's sequential, that's character building, and that's arc that you can never see again. So that's probably my favorite of all three films.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's hop over to the next question. So this one seems to have come from a few different people in chat. Are there any upcoming appearances for Bob Gale where fans can meet him and get items signed, including the book? I mean, that might be tough to answer with COVID restrictions, but yeah, let us know if anything's coming up.
Well, if you happen to be in the UK, I'm heading over there. I'm heading over there very soon, and I am doing an appearance at the Silvertone DeLorean event, which is about 2 hours north of London. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but you can Google that. That'll be the place where you can find me to sign stuff if you happen to be there. I don't necessarily recommend that you make plans just to go there, because travelers from any other country have to quarantine for 5 or 10 days, and I'm flattered that you want me to sign something, but it's really not worth sitting around a hotel room for 10 days. Why do you get cleared to do that?
Okay, wait a minute. All right, it looks like the next question. Gabriel Cabezzo, 16. Are there plans of making more Back to the Future comics and or crossovers? And will they be published by IDW? That's specific.
Not at the moment. The Back to the Future Transformers series is just finishing up. Acquired taste, I guess. The toy is great, by the way. The DeLorean that transforms into the giant robot called Gigawatt is very, very cool. I haven't heard of anything new proposals from IDW, but as the barbed wire salesman said in Back to the Future 3, you never know what the future might bring.
Very cool. So next question comes from Brandon Canilo, and it's for Bob. Is there anything from any of the movies in terms of props that you wish you would have kept to this day?
I wish I'd have kept a few more hoverboards, I guess. I've got 3 of them, and would have been nice to have a whole set, I guess. I don't regret trying to steal a car. The brainwave machine, that might have been nice. Been a nice thing to have hanging on the wall somewhere. On the other hand, my wife would say, "What are we gonna do with this brainwave machine?"
All right, here we go. From Rodston Mendez, and I'm just going to do this because I'm here in Dallas, Texas. Will y'all ever release the footage for Eric Stoltz? We've been waiting for 36 years.
Well, we didn't destroy that footage because we recognize its historic significance. But Eric is still a working actor, and we don't want to put this out there for his sake, because the internet being what it is, there's an awful lot of hate and nasty stuff that goes online. And we put this out there, and people would just dump on Eric, saying, "Oh man, hey, what a crappy actor! These things are bad. Why would we do that to anybody?" So it's there, and if you're young, you'll probably live long enough to see it. If you're old, probably not.
That's awesome. Next question comes from Kevin Nerna. Sorry if I said that wrong. So this is for the whole panel. If you could go back to any time for any reason, where would you go? Let's start with Steven for this one.
Oh, wow.
It's tough.
As much as I enjoyed time travel, I really don't want to re-experience any of the mistakes that I've made in the past. So, I'm sure that I would have some messages for young Stephen Clark at age 20 when he first saw this film. Some things are best left undone. So I'll let him figure it out.
James, what about you?
I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. I mean, that'd be the whole point. Like I've seen all that stuff. All that stuff ain't great for me. So I want to see. So if I could go forward, Kevin, I would go at least another 35 years. I'd go wherever I would feel there'd be flying cars. Honestly, that's where I would go, wherever this, because the Jetsons and Back to the Future really messed me up. So I would go with flying cars.
And Bob, what about you?
Well, if I was going to go back in time, I mentioned that my mom was a professional violinist. After World War II, she had an ensemble called Maxine and Her Men, and they played in nightclubs in the St. Louis area. I would go back and catch her act. I'd like to see that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's super cool. I feel like I would go way, way back if I had the opportunity. I would check out medieval times or even further back. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure there's not dragons, so if there's Game of Thrones in it back there, you're going to be really upset. So
Woody Allen said that he wouldn't want to go back to any time period before indoor plumbing.
That's a very good point.
It is on it. Let's see here. Okay, this is this is from that crazy thing called Instagram, Steven. So hang on.
Oh, no.
From Back to the Future Legacy on Instagram, the fading, disappearing photo Marty has with his brother and sister was taken at the Amblin Well, which has Jaws in it. How did it come about that the well would be in the place where this photo was taken, and who took the photo? That's a very good question. Are we asking who took the photo in the continuity of the story, or who took the photo on the company? It would have probably been our unit photographer that took the picture, Ralph Nelson. But in terms of the continuity of the story, it would have been, George or Lorraine, taking a picture of the kids hanging out at this wishing well. Now, obviously, nobody who's not in the know knows that wishing well exists on Hamlin, the Universal, and no tourists can go back there to take that picture at that well. But you just see a wishing well, and you say, "Oh, okay." The family took a family vacation somewhere, and there was a wishing well, and Lorraine said, "Kids, why don't you get next to that wishing well, and George, take that picture." So that's the story there. But now here's the interesting time travel question. Okay, we have a picture of the three kids in front of the well, and then Dave disappears, and it would still make sense that George would take a picture of Marty and Linda in front of the well, and then it would still make sense of a picture of Marty in front of the well. But if Marty disappears, why would anybody want to just take a picture of that well? So I'll let the fans try to figure that one out.
Yeah, let's see some discussion around that in the chat. So next question comes from Steve C. And this is a very future-looking question. What's in store for the 40th anniversary?
Well, that's where we need to get the DeLorean and travel forward and find out for sure. Who knows whether there's going to be some new format, or I hope we'll have a little bit more about the musical as special features in the 40th anniversary. And by then, we hope that there will be different productions of the musical traveling around. Whether we can make the movies look any better than they do now, I kind of doubt it. The 4K transfers are absolutely glorious. If you have a 4K system, the movies would never look better than they do now.
Okay. Yeah. We're running out of time here, but I think we can get this one in from this Aaron. Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. No, we're going to go. Okay, yeah, Aaron Wada. No, here we go. Jeremy Havlika. Now that the 4K version of the films are out, I'm all kinds of, you know what, I'm going to skip that question because it's not finished.
We'll come back to it.
It isn't. Where did the McFly name come from? And the same person asked, Aaron Wada. 1:16 is the time Marty meets Doc at the mall, and 1:16 is the length of the film. Was that planned or a happy accident? And is that correct?
Ooh, good question.
Boy, that 1:16 thing, that's very cool. Something I never put that together. No, that was absolutely a happy accident. When you cut the movie, you don't know exactly how long it's going to be, and the first sneak preview version of the movie was 7 minutes longer than what we released. So that was just an accident. What was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, where did the name McFly come from?
Bob Zemeckis came up with that. He said in the first draft, very first rough draft, his name was Marty McDermott, and Bob said, we need a more catchy name than that. How about McFly? So there it is.
There you go.
Love that.
Marsha,
Okay.
do we have time for that last one?
Yeah, we do. So question from Jeremy Havlika. Now that the 4K version of the films are out, I'm noticing all kinds of details such as background signs. Is there anything we should keep an eye out for, or anything you noticed for the first time yourself?
Yeah, actually. In fact, when we were doing the transfers, we blurred it out. There was a crew member off the side of the frame in the runaway wagon sequence on part 3. You can't see that person now. If you put your old Blu-ray edition up, you might be able to see him if you know where to look. So yeah, there are a few little details in there that I hadn't seen before, and some of them are supposed to be there, and some of them not so much. And we try to fix the ones that didn't belong. Yeah.
There's a lot of details throughout the trilogy that we've got on the website. There's a frequently asked questions article that Bob wrote back in 1990 that we've got published on there. And so some of the details that he actually recommended fans way back then to look for. One that just comes off the mind is there's a sign at the Biff Museum that says smoking required. And so, I mean, it's just little details like that he put throughout the trilogy that gives you quite a chuckle when you see those for the first time. Even if it's the 10,000th time you've seen the film, you may see something new.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up this session, in our last 30 seconds or so, for folks in the audience, what's the best way for them to stay in touch with the community, to join the community, and to stay in touch with what's coming out with the musical and the book?
Well, I'll take part of that. Backtothefuture.com. You can go straight there to the website, and we have links out to the musical, which is backtothefuturemusical.com. You can buy your tickets directly from their website for those shows, those upcoming events. Backtothefuture.store is where you can get all officially licensed merchandise. And like I said, Twitter is just at Back to the Future. And so there's lots of ways, but go to backtothefuture.com. You can get everything from that domain.
Awesome. All right, so that takes us to the end of this session. I just want to say a huge thank you to Bob, to Stephen for taking the time to participate in this and to connect with the community. And James, thank you so much for being a phenomenal co-host.
No, it was my pleasure. It's a bucket list. I'm crossing things off right now.
I just want to put in a plug for my pal, Rich Weissensall, who runs the DeLorean car shows now. He's doing an event in Crystal Lake, Illinois in August. You can find out about it on Facebook. Go to DeLorean Convention Show has a page, and you can find out all about that. And if you want to hang out with a bunch of DeLorean fanatics, no better place than that show.
That sounds like a blast. I love it. Well, thank you again so much to all of you. Really appreciate you taking the time, and this was such a blast.